All right, folks, how you doing? Russell, TrueResults303.com. Check out the website, link in the description box, Mind, Body, Spirit, Fitness. Put in the healing, back, and health. Follow on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Google+. The podcast is out there. Links down below. All right, True Crew, coming at you today with a video on how to create flow in life, or as they would say in athletics, the zone, right? Finding the zone. So I was rereading a book I read a long time ago. When I very first started reading, I started reading Robert Greene. I don't know if you have read any of his books. It's like the power, what is it, like the art of power, the power of seduction, or something like that. And he actually teamed up and wrote a book with 50 Cent, the rapper, called The 50th Law. So I was just reading it, and he talked about this flow. I agree with his 4 areas, but on his 4th area, I don't really agree with his explanation on it. But everything else I agree with. He's got his 4 flows, and I agree with those. So, well, besides the 3rd one, I agree with the category. I don't agree with the way he explained it, though. So, well, I'll just go into it, right? So the first one is going to be mental flow. And what he talked about, and what I think I've created a video on this before, it's more of that becoming a jack of all trades, master of none, right? That's the downfall with our society in general. Like, we've so zoned in on one thing that we are numb to everything else, and we don't comprehend things, not knowing that, right? This world is one big ecosystem, right? Same concept of that we don't understand that all the spraying of pesticides and everything that we do are supposedly killing the bees. If we kill the bees, we can no longer pollinate the plants. If we cannot pollinate the plants, unfortunately, then we're not going to eat. And then unfortunately, that's going to create a lot of more death within the plants in the ecosystem, right? Because then insects are going to die. A whole slew of things is going to happen. And if we don't understand that we are all interconnected in some way, shape, or form, then we are going to fall. So that was his first thing, was the mental flow. In that concept, like I just said, it's that concept of jack of all trades, master of none. Well, you want to know a little bit of everything that you come in contact with. Now, that does not mean that you're an expert in those fields, but what that means is you have the basic concepts of these ideas, and now you can work off of them to make them your own, right? That's what it's about. So we need to first understand that, right? It's not all about lifting heavy barbells. Even if we're going that fitness aspect, it's not all about lifting heavy barbells. That's fine, but we can still add calisthenics, cardio, stretching, and things like that into the routine. So no matter what it is in life, we don't have to be a master chef, right? But if we want a healthy body, we need to know the basics of cooking, right? Isn't that how it goes, right? You don't need to be a super geek and know how to code and do all these other things, but in order to function in today's world, you need to know how to use a computer, social media, upload, things like that. You don't need to be the greatest artist in the world or have the greatest vocabulary, but you need to know how to talk with people in general, right? So, jack of all trades, master of none. It's that same concept of boundaries are not a bad thing. Boundaries create creativity within your space. I have a video on that as well. So just know that, right? Without a sideline on a football field, there would have probably never been a spin move, right? Because you're running at it, you're like, oh dang, I'm about to hit something. Oh, here comes the defender. I'm going to spin and pivot back. Without that, you would just always try to outrun the person in the same direction, right? So next was emotional flow or emotional health, right? Mental health, emotional health. And what this is going to be is not dwelling on the thought, right? Unfortunately, for most people, it's like we're at our super, super high, and then we're super, super low. We're super, super high, and then we're super, super low. We need to find that flow to where we're right in the middle, just coasting, right? Don't dwell on those thoughts. We're right here. Yeah, we're up. Yeah, we're down. Yeah, we're up. Yeah, we're down. But we're not at extremes, because once we hit those extremes, it's hard to get out of those extremes. So we need to make sure that, yeah, somebody might have said something horrible about you or whatever the case may be, but you can't let that drag on in your mind. You've got to be able to let it go to the side, You've got to be able to say, you know what, yeah, whatever, and you need to, just take a few minutes, evaluate yourself. Is that true or is that not true? Is it partially true? Is it not partially true? And if you can say it's true, then good. Work on it. If it's a bunch of mumbo jumbo, they're just trying to bring you down, forget about it. Who cares, right? So we need to have that emotional flow, that emotional consistency to where we're not super high, super low. We don't want to be that energetic. I've mentioned this before in other podcasts, other YouTube channels, videos where, I have a neighbor that lives by me, and I was talking to him about depression one day, and he said that's some of the time why some people have that depression. It's because when they're around people, they want to be like the cool person, the fun person. So they're up here way too long, all day, 10 hours, and then when they get to home, they just crash. And then they're depressed because they've wasted too much energy trying to fit in, and then they just crash when they're at home, and they're really unhappy. That's why they say sometimes comedians and those jokesters and things like that are the ones that are usually the most depressed, because we've got to find that balance, right? Next, he said, was social flow, or I can't remember how I said it, social health, right? This is the same concept of being able to maneuver in a room full of people, right? You might not be, like I said, the smartest person. You might say some dumb things. You might whatever. But at least you can go around in these areas and have a decent conversation. Add some value to a conversation. We all have value within our own lives. So we've got to be able to not only add what little value we can to the conversation, but once again, be appreciative of the value that others are bringing. And it's that same concept of, if you're up and down with your emotional flow, your emotional health, it's feeding off of those others around you, right? That's how we can go into situations around people, and no matter where you go, people can say, yeah, he's a cool person. He's someone fun to be around. Because no matter what, you're balanced. You're in the flow all the time, that when you get in these social environments, now you can feed off of others and kind of work around, right? You might be able to get to that super excited, overly excited person, and you can be a part of that, right? And then all of a sudden you go to the other person, they're kind of down, and you can bring them up a little bit. Not too much, but just a little bit. Or, you can kind of go down and have that sympathy and bring them out of it. So we've got to be able to, maneuver in a group of people and be able to adapt to what's going on within the environment. And then last but not least, this is the one I really didn't agree with him as much on, and he used music as his concept for it, and his reasoning, something about jazz music and stuff. But it was like creating, and it was cultural flow, cultural awareness, cultural health, and it was more of creating the culture, creating the next trend. I'm not a fan of that, especially since he he contradicted himself on that one earlier in the book when he said you don't want to follow the trends, but it's you want to create the trend. And I'm not a fan of that, right? Because just because you are the creator of the trend, if you yourself are not in this state of flow and knowing yourself, knowing the social environment that you're around, you can create a trend that is unhealthy. So I'm not too into that creating the trend, but it is, that cultural trend. But culturally, it's knowing your culture and how your teachings are. For me, Catholic, it's knowing that Catholic culture, that Catholic teaching, and then being able to bring it into the world, into conversations where there is this new trend. In America, we've got that, we've got the big secular environment, right? And people for so long thought the Catholic Church was so horrible on teaching against pornography is bad and this and that. Now we've got Terry Crews coming out saying that he's addicted to pornography. It's almost ruined his life. Just multiple. There's the no-fap community out there. There's all these other communities out there. All these superstars, famous people that are coming out now and saying, yes, this has ruined my life. This has ruined my relationship. And that's because we, as the Catholic Church, have not been able to or have not been integrating ourselves into society, understanding the problem, and then being able to convey our message in a respectable and proper manner. So that's what that cultural flow is. Not losing yourself because of that newest trend, and truly understanding your beliefs, where you come from, and being able to translate it into the new world. So there we go. Those are the 4 ways to create that flow, the 4 ways to get in the zone for yourself. If we can manage all of these things, right? Life is complex. You're juggling things at all times. And once we can master these 4 things, mental, emotional, social, and cultural, once we can juggle all these at the same time and be able to intertwine them together, great things are going to happen. Okay? So, there was a lot. I threw it at you. Like I said, some of this stuff, he contradicts himself in the book a little bit. But I mean, when you're trying to write 200 and some pages, I mean, you're most likely going to contradict yourself a little bit. I mean, this book's almost 300 pages. So, you know, you're going to contradict yourself sometimes, and you're just, you know, it's just going to happen. And you can't get down on it, right? That's where that emotional flow, that emotional health is going to come into play. You've got to be able to understand and say, yeah, I messed up, and don't get down. Just, hey, let it go, let it roll off your shoulder, right? You know, same thing with that mental thing. Maybe you've been too concentrated on one area that you've been forgetting the whole. We've got to understand the whole picture, right? So there you go. Quick, simple. I don't know if it's quick, but 10, 11 minutes. So once again, I hope this helps. Don't forget to follow on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, the website, the YouTube channel, the podcast. Check all that stuff out. Join the community. Be a part of the true crew. Let's find your true self. That's what it's all about. So once again, subscribe to this channel. Share and like these videos.